One of Australia's largest pub operators has apologised over its decision to not hold Australia Day events at its 200 venues across this country after widespread public outcry to an initial ban on pubs and bars participating. The Australian Venue Company said sorry, admitting they can't control how people mark the National Day. It's led to a debate about whether corporations should actually weigh in on political and social issues. For their take, let's bring in journalist James Willis and columnist Susie O'Brien. Good morning. James, your newspaper, The Daily Telly, did a survey on this. 97% of people say venues should not take a political stance on Australia Day.
And I think the greatest part of this was the apology from this pub group to say we're really sorry for offending everyone. I mean, look, stick to your word on this. If you've decided to make this call, then you have to go over the hill with it. I am sick and tired of this debate, and I think most Australians are as well. We need some serious leadership on this, and if we are at a stage now where there's a large part of the community that don't want to celebrate January 26, then I really think it should be brought to a vote or some sort of system to determine whether the majority of us want to do this or not. I think it's really sad that we have this debate every year. This is our national day. It should be a day that we are proud of the best things about this country, and ultimately every year there's another corporate group, there's another individual that says we shouldn't be doing this. It's time once and for all to put this to bed, go to a vote. I'd be happy to do that. If it changes the date, then so be it. But I think we're in a situation now where it's a really awkward situation for what should be a day of celebration.
Polly's ducking and weaving, though.
Absolutely.
We saw the premiers yesterday saying, oh, not me. We saw a lot of the federal ministers, no, everyone up to you. Susie, do you think the more these big companies and people campaign to change the date, the more support there is not to change the date?
Well, you know what, Nat? I support individuals who say, I see this as Invasion Day or Sorry Day and I'm going to march rather than sit in a pub. But what we don't want are foreign-owned multinationals telling us how to celebrate our own National Day. And I think there is a backlash when companies like this, we don't want the Chinese billionaires saying, oh, you shouldn't be in our pub celebrating Australia Day. We'll make up our own minds, thank you very much. And I think, they've come out and said sorry. Well, but it's really very much a mealy-mouthed apology where they say sorry for offending you, sorry for being divisive, and not sorry we said it in the first place. Don't tell us how to celebrate Australia Day. We'll make up our own minds. Thanks very much. And I think, if they would just go ahead and change the date, it would probably take away a lot of this discussion anyway.
Yeah, a lot of people support that. But, we saw this when Willis came out and said we're not going to stock the Australia Day stuff. We saw this when big corporations took a stance either way on The Voice. And Australians went exactly what you said, James. No, I don't want to be told. We see this at the Oscars every year when people stand up and say, I think you should be doing this. So maybe butt out.
Well, and the other thing, Nat, is you hear a lot of people say change the date. You don't hear very often people say change the date to and then provide a sensible alternative that has been done in consultation with all groups. And I think that's lacking in the debate as well.
Good point. Tell us what you think. Moving on, US President Joe Biden has made a controversial decision to pardon his son Hunter, who is facing jail time for gun and tax-related charges. Incoming President Donald Trump is also no stranger to presidential favours for family. He once pardoned his son-in-law's dad, Charles Kushner, for tax evasion and other crimes. James, this is a really interesting system, isn't it? That the boss can just say, wipe the slate. Can you imagine if Albo could do that, or one of our Prime Ministers?
Well, you imagine the outrage. And we've heard recently, the political firestorm the Prime Minister was in for currying favour with an airline. The idea of changing our system and having a law that the PM could say, look, that bloke got a speeding fine last week. Can we just get him off that for now? I think it's crazy what happens in America, that the President can firstly promise not to pardon his son for a long period of time. His son, had some very, very serious court findings against him, and as a result, on his last days in office has said, look, this was a political attack, I'm going to pardon my son. I think it's even more crazy that the new President, Donald Trump, could pardon himself effectively for his convictions. The one pardon I like in America is that they pardon a turkey every year on Thanksgiving, and I thought Joe Biden did a very good job in doing that. One turkey survives the oven, which is great news.
You're right, Susie. There's a lot of pardoning going on from both sides. I mean, the Republicans are up in arms about this happening, but, Trump's pardoned the son-in-law's father and now appointed him to a key position.
Yeah, it really is hard to see this happening in Australia because the offspring of politicians tend to change their names and go and live in the country just to escape their parents. You know, they're not the ones who are fighting federal tax evasion, weapons charges. I mean, it's really hard to see that happening here. And, you know, it is a bit disappointing that Joe Biden has spent so much time in office, you know, taking a stand, saying he wouldn't be misusing this pardon. And now at the last minute, you know, he's given in to years' worth of discussion around the Biden table and said, enough already, stop going me, I'm going to do it. But, you know, it is hard to imagine it happening here. And what an indictment that the last two presidents and the next one have also had to use this law.
Yeah, one of the comments I thought was interesting, most Americans can sympathise with a father's decision to pardon his son, even if they disagree. What they can't forgive is Biden lying about it repeatedly before the election. That seems to be one theme that's coming through. Tell us what you think about that one too. It is an interesting system, isn't it? Thanks, guys. See you next week.